So my first role was at a small website agency where I soon found my love for web and software development. I then moved on to an employer branding advertising agency. And in both of these places, I wasn't actually able to work in proper agile ways of working. We said we did agile, but I don't think we really understood it. So where I was self-teaching myself all around agile practices and how to do things, it wasn't actually until iTech found me a year and a half ago where I was actually able to apply that properly, not only work in this way, but also pioneer within the company, which is amazing. And even to now, my mum still asks me, what do you do? I don't really understand. But Claudia, over to you.
Thanks, Maria. And I think that's something a lot of project managers find from their parents as well. My background started very differently from where I am today as well. 10 years ago, I started my working career in the music industry as an event manager. The plan was never to work in an agile way, although anyone who's worked in events will know something will always go wrong and you need to fail fast, adapt and learn quickly. So maybe it was ingrained in me from the beginning. 6 years ago, I moved to London and made the switch to tech. So I've tried a few different agencies working across hospitality, e-commerce, some of the tech giants, and now gaming. It's only really been in the last 2 years that I've started working so closely with Agile. I've never worked for a company who take on the Agile approach quite like iTech do, and it's undoubtedly helped us to scale at a rapid rate, both in the delivery chapter and the company as a whole. So you're going to hear enough of us over the next 20 minutes. We thought we could set the scene on the journey of Agile in iTech with a short video.
So hopefully that was a nice snapshot into our journey through our company, and it brings us nicely into what we're going to cover for the rest of the session. We're going to share our experiences working with different levels of Agile and how we've evolved that within squads and tribes. So just to start off, we wanted to touch upon some key elements that we've actually identified. These aren't the only things that are the ingredients for us, but it's what we personally think are the most important that we have come across within our own teams. The first being, it's the thinking and the shift in the mindset that needs to happen, not only as a company, but as our teams. We need to also make sure that we're educating so that we all understand why we're doing things, what are the principles, and what that in turn will give us. And lastly, how can we relate all of this to our specific needs? You know, it's not a one size fits all. We're not a Google, we're not a Spotify, we're iTech. So it needs to be understood in our real life and where we want to get to as a company. We see all of these things going hand in hand, and we'll talk through some examples later.
But first, we've grouped who our key audiences are for Agile and iTech. Now, important to caveat this, these personas were created for the purpose of this talk, just to help us illustrate our journeys, and they're not used to segment our squad members at all. So, meet James. He's our Aginer. He's a content editor and has never worked in an Agile environment before. He hears the word Scrum and he thinks we're talking about the Six Nations. He has a lot of questions and needs more support, but he's definitely willing to learn. Meet Lauren. She's our Agiterate and has been a product manager for years. She's familiar with Agile, her team uses Jira, and she has a retro at the end of a big project. She wouldn't say she's an expert, but she's comfortable that she knows enough for her role. And meet Jemima. She's our Ag expert and has been working in tech for multiple startups for years. She's read all the books, she's been to conferences, she's probably at Agile Roundabout right now. Jemima thinks all teams can benefit from Agile ways of working and is a true pioneer of the Agile methodology.
So as our screen starts to fill now with all our different levels of Agile experiences, we're now going to kick off with starting to look at our own personal teams. So I'm going to kick things off with the first tribe and how we have evolved. So going back 18 months now, I guess starting from zero from a delivery side, I joined our flagship product. There were 16 of us at the time and we were the biggest team. It was not only the first time for product working with delivery, but it was also the first time that the team were able to work with someone around ways of working. There were big growth plans for us for the near future, so everyone was really excited about this, but I don't think they truly knew what to expect. Agile was a thing, but it wasn't really understood. So at this point, it was fair to say we were actually a team of Aginers. I knew Agile myself, but was yet to be in a place where I could apply it properly. And so our journey really began. When we started, we had no clear framework or processes, but our squads were working in chapters, so there were no cross-functional teams. Our engineers were working to 2-week sprints, content were working to 3. They had their stand-ups and their retrospectives, but they were all happening as chapters, so it was all a bit disconnected. This to me was an indication that they thought they were doing things in the right way and things were okay. They were doing their ceremonies, but what was the right way for us? This is what we really needed to focus on. We needed to bring in that education and start that shift in mindset. We had some Ag experts in the team, and the reason I say this with quotation marks is because it wasn't because of the years of Agile experience. They had read the books on Scrum and they knew about Scrum as a framework. And for us, this was commonly some of the engineers. Where they knew the theory, it was quite difficult to apply some basics, like how could we refine our ceremonies, introducing definitions of done, what are our cadences? And I had a challenge with them in accepting any change. One of the lines that kind of sticks with me now through this journey is, but in Scrum, it says you do it like this, which was quite interesting. But on the other side, there were some people that didn't care as much, and those were more of the Aginers, where they just really wanted to do their work and they would follow any processes put in place, as long as it meant they were delivering. But this also sparked some concern. So the first thing we did was form 2 cross-functional squads just to get us in the right space of mind and start thinking in the right way. One was around the growth of the product and one was around optimization. We really focused on our ways of working, understanding our workflows, working collaboratively, and really starting to think about how we could be autonomous in our squads. We were no way ready for that just yet, but it was enough to think that this could eventually be the goal. So if we fast forward a couple more months, then we're now a team of 25. So we're growing really quickly. Those Ag experts were soon becoming my allies. It became clear that I needed them to help cascade some of that Agile thinking and practices into their squads. It was really important for us to work together and help change this mindset in real time. You can throw as much theory at teams as possible, but if it isn't applied or understood in real life, it really won't relate and it could fail. This was a big theme for the tribe. Yes, the textbook says that you should have daily stand-ups for about 10 minutes, but our reality at that time was that we had a new team of 11 people and our work wasn't moving fast enough, so this wasn't valuable for us. So I really wanted to make sure that all of the understanding was there, but it was completely applied to our current position before any further changes were made. We streamlined our ceremonies, we started shaping how we were planning, we refined backlogs that were the length of the River Nile, and the we here is clear. It wasn't just a delivery thing. It wasn't, a product and delivery thing. It was all of us. We really encouraged the squads to be part of this and take ownership. If they wanted to have a grasp over the way they work, they need to start being part of this decision-making and the creation of what the work actually looks like. Of course, this came with some teething problems. I'm sure all of you are probably nodding when I say this, but it's a delivery thing. Can you create the tasks in Jira? Can you move them over? Can you do this? But that's not the mindset of a maturing Agile team. So we did have a bit of work to do here to build up trust and understanding about why this was important. We also at this point started to become pioneers for other squads in the company. We were really sharing knowledge and becoming a standard of our ways of working. The biggest challenge for us here was that we were soon to be more squads, and quite quickly, where the rest of the company were behind in scaling in their squads. So at times it really did feel like it was just us. Yes, we were on a roll, we were moving fast and trying to mature quite quickly, but we were on our own. So it was quite hard to have other like squads to lean on. I remember we had an internal Spotify model training, and the business and everyone was so excited about all the things that Spotify do and had done, you know, health checks, FICAs, different types of planning. Wow, tried leadership, all this really amazing stuff that everyone just kind of wanted to throw everything in. But for us, this really wasn't a good time to rock the boat. We'd only just got on a track. Even then, as a company, we were actually still learning. We didn't want to go back to where we were, where we had lots of things going on and nothing was connected. So we let the dust settle and we did a playback of all the great things we learned to the team. But it was only when we saw opportunities appear that we needed to start looking at these in more detail. And by then it was already familiar with the squads. Health checks was a good example of this. Because we had a lot of change, we wanted to make sure that our teams were happy. And if they weren't, really understand why and what we can do to improve, especially as we continue to grow. So we started introducing our health checks across our squads. So time is going a bit fast at this point, and we're now 4 squads and we're 30 plus people. We know we needed some structure, but we also needed autonomy to help our teams become high-performing squads. And they were also actually crying out for this. Having officially became the first tribe for the company in October last year, we really started to shape. So how do we start looking at all these ways of allowing autonomy, and how do we improve our ways of working? Well, we tried. We did self-selection for the 4 squads and we created squad brands. We did a 360 on how we were using our tools. We restructured Jira, giving them their own space. We introduced lots of things, but some just to mention now: story mapping, story slicing, DRIs, working agreements. We had our furry friend Elmo that we used to take into meetings to help with focus. We looked at productivity metrics and data to help us inform decisions. And as you'll see from the GIF that's about to appear, it did become a little bit of a car crash. Not that any of these were wrong or not needed, but we didn't actually take the baby steps and map out the evolution of all these great practices and initiatives. I knew we needed to do them. The squads were excited we were moving into this space and could see where we were going. But what was the actual purpose? What was our bigger picture, and how are we going to keep telling this story? So we were soon back to storming. We needed more delivery and product, and we knew that was going to come soon. But the here and now was that we needed a delivery strategy and a roadmap to help tie everything together, to help relate it and support our product strategy. The tribe thought this was all additional work, but it actually should be part of everything we do. And that was the message that we tried to relay. We needed to be able to show that. So we actually aligned it to our roadmap, to our OKRs, and that it underpinned everything we were delivering. Then all the above seemed to suddenly ease in and stuck with the teams over the next 6 months, just by having a plan of how each can evolve at the right time. We also spent a lot of time defining what autonomy is for us. We had lean coffees, we were doing workshops for all of our squads, but everyone was different. Not only did we have different people, different goals in our squads, and different personalities with preferred ways of working, we also had to make sure that we were working with teams in a way that we could align across the tribe. I remember one season this year, one of the squad took autonomy to another level. And when the OKRs were shared, they came back with a complete rewrite of them, which I thought was brilliant at the time because it really showed that ownership and autonomy. But it wasn't really done in the right way. It wasn't collaborative, it wasn't communicated, and it didn't create any trust. So after negotiating and making some pivots, once the first sprint has started, we really got things back on track, and it really started our way of then becoming autonomous. So our mission and a big part of our delivery strategy for the year was all around how can we deliver high quality work in happy and productive teams? So all those principles around trust, autonomy, collaboration and quality formed our roadmap for delivery success. And it did succeed. We were improving our sprint completions. We reduced our backlogs by something like 92%. We improved our cycle times. But most importantly, we're seeing positive trends in our health checks. Trust and team unity became the one factor that was constantly peak, regardless of what was happening. And even to this day, it still remains the highest. So today we're now a tribe of over 40 people, and the squads have really come into their own. we have seen the true impact of having one product manager and delivery to a squad, and the positive effect it has on teams in self-organising, making decisions, and owning their work. Of course, we have teething issues every now and then, like every team, but they have really started to understand that this is part of our Agile journey and that we need to improve and iterate all the time in order to make successes. My biggest learning for a tribe that goes through continuous growth and change is that it's okay to not do everything Agile says. It's okay to have a mixture of different experiences and teams. Some may be Aginas for the whole time, others may go through the whole cycle. But it's the mindset, the trust, and the acceptance of new learning and adapting continuously that makes it a success. And just the end note before I pass over to Claudia, if you asked me 2 years ago if I should be the only Agile expert in the team, I probably would have said, yes, that's my role. But this whole journey has really led me to actually be that pioneer, to encourage that thinking within my teams. It's about how we work and learn together, and that's how we can and have actually made Agile our bread and butter.
Thanks, Maria. So following the tribe evolution, I'll take you through our latest squad to be formed at iTech and what that journey has looked like through the pandemic. March 2020, I think that's going to be a date that's ingrained in our heads forevermore. But I had been at iTech around 6 months in March of this year when I was asked to set up a new pillar for the company. So for iTech, it was a shift away from the one-to-one relationship that the majority of iTech's squads and products have, that being one squad dedicated to one product. And those of you here today with agency experience in particular will likely be more familiar with the new setup that we shifted to, away from one-to-one and towards one-to-many. So one squad dedicated to many products. In this case, it was a roadmap of 10. We knew it would be a challenge because iTech hadn't taken on an approach like this before. So we not only had to deliver to targets, but also establish a sustainable roadmap to work towards. What we hadn't factored in was that we'd be kicking off in a global pandemic and we'd need to establish a brand new ways of working on top of everything else. So on day 0, our team looked like this. We had our Aginer, someone who had worked with Jira before, but never with any Agile ceremonies. Our Agiterate, someone who came across from another squad in iTech, so was familiar with ceremonies, but maybe not so much with the understanding behind them. And our Agexpert being the delivery lead. So as a team of 3, we had to identify our purpose, which was to grow our products from sites with great potential to products making an impact in their markets. We had to define who we needed, which was a cross-functional team, as is the typical iTech product squad. But we added an additional layer onto that, leaning into the growth hacker element, that you're not only an expert in your own field, but you're also looking for new opportunities and how we could grow quite quickly. And the 3 of us had to establish our ways of working. So our Agile ways of working that we agreed on between the 3 of us was we had stand-ups 3 days a week, not daily, 2-week time box sprints, and comms mainly over our internal chat to avoid pulling people onto unnecessary Zoom calls. Now, just saying those now makes me cringe, but hindsight is wonderful. And we thought our work from home approach would be much more temporary than where we've ended up. Within a few months, we'd expanded to a team 4 times the size, splitting into 2 squads. And these squads had an awful lot going on. So we had continuous planning, initiatives were coming in and out of focus. We were switching priorities and trying to figure out what the best approach was for this. We didn't really have anyone to follow. We were continuously onboarding. Every second Tuesday, we had more people joining, at least one, be it an internal move or an external hire. And then also at iTech, we have the luxury that we're really encouraged to fail fast. So have an ideation, push up some sort of new feature, measure the impact, and then endorse or improve. So there was quite a lot going on for any squad. But in fairness to this squad, we were hitting all of our targets. Everything looked great. And from a stakeholder point of view, we were doing really well. It wasn't until we started digging into our health checks data that we really started to see the gaps, particularly in communication, trust within the team, but most of all, our ways of working. Squad members with all levels of Agile experience had been onboarded to a ways of working that was established when we were a team of 3 and when we thought permanent work from home was temporary. We'd been seeing great success with our initiatives, that we hadn't recognized some key issues caused by the remote nature of the team. As we continued to expand in size, we hadn't revisited the workflow. We hadn't explained the why behind the ceremonies that we'd chosen to implement, and we hadn't heard about other squad members' agile experience and ideas. So despite our success metrics, we had a key missing ingredient: psychological safety. So as a squad, we took a step back, recognized the shift that the pandemic had brought and how quickly our squad had scaled in that time. The squad spent time workshopping to build this safety back, encouraging squad members to challenge and adapt the processes based on both past experience and experience with the new work from home situation. We tried to identify individual values to then build up our team values and a team identity. And most importantly, we looked at how we communicate with each other. How do we like to give and receive feedback? How do we plan initiatives? Even adding comments to Jira. The ways of working that we'd established as a trio back in March 2020, that was pulled apart and improved to suit our new squad and our new virtual norm. Now, most cross-functional squads will have varying level of agile experience and knowledge. That's to be expected, and I don't think that's a learning for anyone here. But a big learning for us was just because our team are performing against targets does not mean we've established ourselves to sustainably scale as a happy and high-performing team. We needed to develop awareness within the squad that we care about more than the success metrics and ask the team, how's this work going for you? Are you seeing the benefits of our workflow? Then take action based on that. So I'll leave you with this. We decided on a team value, and anyone who's read James Kerr's book Legacy will be familiar with this value, but we were borrowing from the All Blacks rugby team with the philosophy of no dickheads. The All Blacks are the best in the world, not due to being bigger, stronger, or having the most funding, but they have an innate respect for the team they play with, the game they play, and the country they're representing. They each hold a deep belief that no one is bigger than the team, and individual brilliance does not automatically lead to outstanding results. So how do we loop this squad formation in a pandemic back into learning the language of Agile? If you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, ask it. If you don't agree with the why, challenge it. And as a squad of all varying levels in this new normal, we'll decide what to do, but each voice in our squad is always respected. Whether you're an Aginer, an Agiterate, or an Ag expert, you play a part in defining the Agile ways of working and ultimately the success of your squad. So now to sum up some key takeaways from today's talk, Agile workflows are not just for delivery. All members of the squad should have a voice. We're always continuously learning and adapting, irrespective of the size or age of the squad or tribe. No one size fits all. Some teams require a bit more time to come around to the new ways of working. Invest time to understand the why behind what we're doing. Don't just take targets as an indicator, check in with your team and take action as required. Your squad are your most valuable asset. Invest time in them. And above all else, we should have fun when doing it. So now, over for questions.
Thank you, Maria and Claudia. Really, really interesting to hear about the formation of the tribes, especially the largest tribe that you've got. So because we're running slightly over, we've probably only got time for one question. So what I will say is if you've got any additional questions, my colleague Beth is going to put the Slack channel in the comment section so you can ask further questions on there. But I'll ask it. I'll put a question to you from Ed, who says, I found people who know Agile become blockers using it effectively because they think the Agile manifesto is gospel as a framework. Do you encounter this, and how do you overcome it?
Yep, I could probably kick this off. So we do have the same, especially in the tribe. And what we actually did is that we kind of twisted the manifesto for ourselves and we kind of formed our own one, but with the team. So it wasn't something that we were saying, this is our manifesto. We kind of got everyone on board and we shaped it together. And we found that by doing that, everyone was invested in it and they all wanted to be part of the evolution of what we did moving forward.
Cool. And we probably can squeeze one last question in from Oren. So he says, do your product teams often run into roadblocks where they depend on other product teams in the business to make changes for you to be able to complete those changes?
I think there's quite a lot of cross collaboration in iTech, and a lot of like sharing knowledge between them. I think some of the main roadblocks that we'd come from are probably more from like our structural basis, and things like hosting or issues that we're running into with that. And something like that, we as a delivery chapter tend to come together and try to brainstorm around that in ways that we can help them out. But there is quite a lot of collaboration between all the squads. If one squad is feeling it or one tribe is feeling it, it's probably going to be across the company. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. And obviously, it was really good to hear about the delivery function at iTech, and especially how you guys have been coping during the lockdown, and hearing about how your largest tribe has formed and how that's doing. So thank you very much.